Hey everyone! Today we're diving deep into JavaScript's core concepts, prototypes and inheritance. By the end of this tutorial, you'll understand how JavaScript handles object-oriented programming differently from other languages, and how to leverage these powerful features to write cleaner, more efficient code. So what exactly is a prototype? Let me explain. A prototype is essentially a template object that other objects can inherit from. Every JavaScript object has a prototype, and this is what allows for inheritance. The key points to remember are that prototypes serve as templates, they enable property and method inheritance, and they form the prototype chain that JavaScript uses to look up properties. Now let's talk about the prototype chain. This is how JavaScript actually looks up properties. When you try to access a property on an object, JavaScript first checks the object itself. If it doesn't find it there, it looks at the object's prototype. This process continues up the chain until it reaches object.prototype, which is the top of the chain. If it doesn't find the property at all, it returns undefined. Constructor functions are a key part of this system. They're special functions that create objects. When you call a constructor function with the new keyword, it creates a new object and sets up the prototype chain. Inside the constructor, this refers to the new object being created. Each constructor has a prototype property that objects created with it will inherit from. Let's look at a basic example. Here we have a person constructor function. When we create a new person with newPerson, it sets the name property. The greet method is added to the prototype, not directly to the object. When we call alice.greet, JavaScript finds it on the prototype chain. This is more memory efficient than adding methods to each instance. Here's another example showing the prototype chain in action. Even an empty object has access to methods like toString and has own property because they're on object.prototype. This is why all objects in JavaScript ultimately inherit from object.prototype. You can even add methods to built-in prototypes. Here I'm adding a sum method to all arrays. Now any array can use this method. Just remember that modifying built-in prototypes can sometimes cause issues in large applications. Let's look at a more complex example. Here we have an animal constructor and a dog constructor that inherits from it. The key part is using object.create to set up the prototype chain. We also reset the constructor property to maintain the correct constructor reference. Now when we create a dog and call speak, it works because of the prototype chain. In modern JavaScript, we have class syntax which makes inheritance cleaner. This dog class extends animal, and the super keyword calls the parent constructor. Under the hood, it's still using prototypes, but the syntax is much more familiar to developers coming from other languages. One common mistake is thinking that adding methods to a prototype after creating instances won't affect those instances. Actually, it does work. The prototype chain is dynamic, so new methods are available to all instances. However, methods added directly to instances won't be available to other instances. Another common mistake is forgetting to use the new keyword when calling a constructor. Without new, this refers to the global object instead of the new instance. This can lead to unexpected behavior and hard-to-find bugs. Always remember to use new with constructor functions. Here's a pro tip that will save you hours. Instead of using constructor functions, you can use object.create to create objects with specific prototypes. This gives you more control and is often cleaner for simple cases. It's especially useful when you need to create objects that inherit from other objects without going through a constructor function. Another advanced tip is to consider composition over inheritance. Instead of creating deep inheritance chains, you can compose objects from smaller, focused objects. This can lead to more flexible and maintainable code. In this example, we're creating a person by combining the can speak and can walk behaviors. Let's look at a real-world example. In web development, we often create reusable UI components. Using prototypes, we can create a base UI component with common functionality, then extend it for specific components like buttons. This approach keeps our code dry, don't repeat yourself, and makes it easier to maintain. Another great use case is game development. We can create a base game entity with position and movement, then extend it for specific entities like players, enemies, and items. This makes it easy to add new types of entities while maintaining consistent behavior for all game objects. Let's quickly recap what we've learned. Prototypes are the foundation of inheritance in JavaScript, enabling objects to share properties and methods. The prototype chain determines how JavaScript looks up properties. Constructor functions create objects with shared prototypes. ES6 classes provide a cleaner syntax for the same underlying prototype system. And finally, composition can be a powerful alternative to traditional inheritance patterns. To continue your learning, I recommend practicing by creating your own constructors and experimenting with prototype modification. Try implementing different composition patterns to see which works best for your use cases. And don't forget to read up on Object.Create for more advanced scenarios. If you found this tutorial helpful, please like and subscribe for more JavaScript content. Thanks for watching.